Max Scherzer pitched in his first rehab assignment, but his comments about umpires might have been more interesting than what happened on the mound. Plus, it seems like the rookies Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter are turning a corner. We're going to talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into Max Scherzer's rehab start, we've also got some updates on the other injured Rangers pitchers and a fantastic game from the 2 rookie outfielders, Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit, I've got a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free in the App Store or Google Play. Now, the biggest news coming out of yesterday, well, it probably should be the Rangers beating the Mariners and destroying my arch nemesis, Bryce Miller, who, in case you don't know my history with Bryce Miller, I don't really have a history, but I decided, everyone needs an arch nemesis, and I have a crusade for the correct spelling of my first name, Bryce, with an I. If you were just listening to this, not watching on YouTube, seeing my name card below, and it is a holy war that I'm desperately losing. But Bryce Miller, he's a Seattle Mariner, he's an Aggie, and he has the audacity to spell Bryce with a Y. So I figured, arch nemesis, I could do a whole lot worse. And the Rangers took him to town, hitting the balls very, very hard off of him. But Max Scherzer's rehab start might be the most significant thing that happened yesterday in the Texas Rangers world. First rehab outing of the year for Max Scherzer, who was supposed to come back in late June from surgery to repair a herniated disc. The 39-year-old threw 2 1/3 innings, 52 pitches, fastball averaged 92.2 miles an hour, touched as high as 93.8, and those are really the only numbers you need to be concerned about. Spring training numbers are just as valuable as rehab start numbers, which is to say they're not very valuable. The things you look for are how fast is the fastball, how many pitches did he throw, how far did he go in the game, how many times did he go up and down, which he did give up some hard contact, some runs, some home runs, including a 3-2 changeup home run. I believe that one was to Cole Tucker. But overall, he felt great. Said he still had some left in the tank, and his next rehab start is scheduled on normal rest, would be on a Monday. But since, I believe it was last year, maybe it was 2 years before that, all of the minor league affiliate balls, they all have Mondays off. They have a less travel than they did before. They just play a full week series in wherever they are, which I think was a great change to the scheduling. But it means that all of AA, AAA, High A, Low A, I think the same might be true for the complex leagues. Not sure about the Dominican Summer Leagues, but all affiliated ball, basically AAA and AA, which is where Max Scherzer would be rehabbing. They all have Mondays off, so Tuesday seems like will be the next rehab start for Scherzer. He said his goal was to throw 65 to 70 pitches in that one, 52 pitches in this one, and getting back up to get that last batter in the 3rd inning. That was something that was really interesting to me, that was the case. I believe he was at 46 pitches through 2 innings, and then for him to get back on the hill, sit down and stand back up a 3rd time is something that's valuable to see in a rehab start. And the goal of being 65 to 70 pitches, if he gets to 70 pitches in the next outing, then the outing after that will probably be 85 to 90 pitches, and that would be the 3rd rehab outing. And the thought is he'd have a minimum of 3 rehab outings, and if he's up to 90 pitches in the 3rd rehab outing, which will be about 10 to 11 to maybe 12 days from now, that he could be back on the mound by mid-May, which is just crazy to think about, given the expectations for Max Scherzer. It's just, another well-documented example of Max Scherzer being a freak in the best possible way. Oh, tears major injury. He's supposed to be out for 60 days till November at the earliest. Oh, he's just going to come back in the ALCS and pitch okay. Not great, but okay enough, which the Rangers needed every single one of those innings that Max Scherzer gave them in the playoffs. Even though most of them were in losing effort, they still needed those innings, and he came up big for them. And him coming back by mid-May, beating the recovery time by about a month, maybe, and it'll end up looking like closer to a month and a half, depending on when Scherzer comes back. That is huge. But I wanted to touch very briefly on the comments he made about the umpires, because there's been a lot of umpire discussion on the show, more than I usually like to do, just because it's been kind of egregious, especially the Angel Hernandez bit with Wyatt Langford kind of made it come to the forefront. But because there are automatic balls and strikes in a challenge system in AAA, Scherzer, it was one of the first times I believe he has pitched in an environment like that. He said he didn't love it. He loves the human element. But one idea that he brought up is the discussion for ranking the umpires and having some kind of a relegation system. Because that the umpires are very good. It's a very difficult job, and it is very tough for them to do. But if we rank like the bottom 10% of umpires, usually those are the only ones that are giving anyone any problems. We all know their names. We know Andrew Hernandez. We know J.B. Wendelstaff. Other guys like that are just okay. Those guys aren't great at their jobs, and we know their names, and we know who they are because they make us know who they are by being bad and giving the other good umpires, like Pat Hoberg, who's a phenomenal umpire, a bad name. It just ruins it. The bad ones do. But having a relegation system would be, I think, a great addition to baseball. Having some kind of consequences for being bad at your job is good, especially when you are sometimes determining the outcome of these games just by your ego. And I think Max Scherzer bringing up that idea is a good thing, a very important thing, and someone with his voice saying this and bringing that idea up, it has weight. It has real weight, and I like him using that weight like he does. I like that he is very vocal and thoughtful in his answers. Heck, I just freaking love Max Scherzer. I didn't really appreciate Max Scherzer as much as I should have until he came to the Rangers. But yeah, really love this guy, what he brings to the game. And I am really looking forward to seeing him on the mound sooner as opposed to later, wearing a Texas Rangers uniform once again. But the real big news should have been about this game. The Rangers won a divisional battle. They won 5-1. They had great pitching. They had great hitting. And again, Jon Gray is just looking like a freaking strikeout machine. 4 2/3 innings from him, and despite giving up a run in the first inning, the Rangers came back and scored 5 unanswered runs, blanked the Mariners for the final 8 innings of this contest, and Jon Gray continues, like I said, to be a strikeout merchant. 4 2/3 innings, 7 strikeouts, a 2.92 ERA for him. Would have liked to have seen him finish out that 5th inning and take a little bit of pressure off the bullpen, but hey, John Hernandez was here. He is back on the Major League roster. An inning and a third, gets credit for the win. No hits, no earned runs, just 1 walk and 1 strikeout, and he looked dominant. He got 2 shutout innings from Robertson, and his 8th hold of the year. 2 perfect shutout innings, I should add. With 4 strikeouts, Robertson continues to look like a huge weapon for the Rangers, a 1.26 ERA. And then because the Rangers gave their pitching staff a little bit of insurance, Kirby Yates did not have to pitch in this one, which means you could save him for the day game and the finale. Grant Anderson comes on, gets a couple of strikeouts, and Anderson looked pretty darn good. He didn't allow any contact on his fastball in the zone. No contact on his fastball in the zone. That was huge. That was absolutely massive, and Grant Anderson being a helpful reliever as like the 8th, 9th, 10th maybe option, I'd say for a fully healthy bullpen, that is a hugely nice thing the Rangers didn't have last year. Depth of guys that could just come in and not poop the bed in the bullpen in lower leverage situations that force you into using your higher leverage relievers. That is just a nice little cherry on top of the bonus that was a great game that included, finally, an extra base hit from Wyatt Langford, a couple of extra base hits from Evan Carter, and a little bit of trickery from Julio Rodriguez. We're going to talk about that and why I'm so confident in Wyatt Langford finally turning a corner right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Policygenius. Life insurance is an important safety net for your family, but sometimes trying to find the right policy, it can be on your own. It's super time consuming and sometimes even overwhelming. Have you ever, Policygenius is here to compare your options from the top companies and their team of licensed experts. It's on hand to help talk you through it. You can talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work life insurance policy may not be enough to protection that your family needs. Policygenius gives you unbiased feedback from a licensed expert support team. They have no incentives to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. This episode is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've been told that I'm a competitive person. Okay, yeah, well, I've got a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it, because it's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly, where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like in classic Monopoly, but now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with your friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. Now, some of you may be looking at the box score and be saying, Bryce, you're saying that the Rangers offense dominated and they scored just 5 runs? Well, yeah, they dominated and they scored just 5 runs. But it could have been, and maybe even should have been, a whole lot more. Rangers got a couple of home runs, including, actually, just not including, but only back-to-back home runs, one by Adolis Garcia, his 7th of the year, and one by Evan Carter, his 4th of the year, tied for second on the team with 4 home runs with Marcus Semien. Yeah, Evan Carter, bona fide home run hitter. But that home run by Adolis Garcia, we weren't quite sure off the bat if it was a home run. It looked like it was traveling pretty well. I mean, he struck it pretty well. I mean, 106.2 miles an hour is not a softly hit ball. It was on a sinker that was middle in, about belt high. And it looked like he might have been jammed in that 3-1 count. And Julio Rodriguez is honestly a phenomenal defender. He had a great play robbing Leody Taveras of what should have been a sure RBI hit because Julio Rodriguez, who is one of the most gifted athletes in this game, incredibly fast, which it kind of reminds me of Wyatt Langford's combination of athleticism of like, oh, he's that strong, he shouldn't be that fast. And Julio Rodriguez just like turned himself into a Gold Glove caliber center fielder in like the span of 1 month into his MLB career. But Julio Rodriguez has done this before of deking guys out, of thinking that he robbed home runs. Now, Adolis Garcia's home run wasn't that far over the wall, but it was a ball that I think that had Julio timed his jump just a little bit better, he could have made the play on. He didn't quite get the best jump on it, and we saw it hit his glove, and Julio came down like he had caught the ball. Everyone stopped and stared, including Adolis Garcia, thinking, okay, was that a home run? Was that not a home run? And then after about 5 seconds of Julio Rodriguez sitting on the ground, he looks up over the wall, indicating, nope, I did not catch that ball. That's a home run. And just deking out everybody. And as Adolis Garcia was rounding second, he kind of made a hand gesture and yelled something at Julio Rodriguez. I don't think he enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought it was kind of hilarious. Julio Rodriguez has done that before many times, including a lot in Seattle, where it's gone the opposite way of everyone thought, oh, that's a home run. And then Julio just kind of like saunters back to his normal spot in center field, and then throws the ball back into the infield. Everyone's like, oh, okay, I guess he did rob that home run. But there was not anywhere close on Evan Carter's home run to a home run robbery. That one was hit pretty well into right field. And there was a really interesting feature in the Dallas Morning News by Sean McFarland about the launch angle of Evan Carter's home runs being a lot lower than the average home run. I thought that was really, really interesting. You should go check it out. It was a great article, idea, and execution by Sean. That one was launched a little bit higher, and it was the second career home run in three plate appearances against Bryce Miller for Evan Carter, who just, I guess, dominates Bryce Miller. So thank you to Evan Carter for dominating my arch nemesis. But I'm bearing the lead. The most hits by anyone on the day happened by Wyatt Langford. There was probably a less awkward way to phrase that, but that's the way it came out of my mouth. So that's the way it's coming out of my mouth now. Wyatt Langford, 3-hit day for the first time in his MLB career. I talked about it on yesterday's show, maybe it was 2 days ago's show, about why I'm not concerned yet about Wyatt Langford. I thought this was the one. This was the one that was going to be his first home run. I've been feeling better about it now. I'm more sure that it's going to happen in the next week or so with the at-bats that Wyatt Langford had today and that he had yesterday. But he had an extra base hit for the first time in what felt like forever. I believe there was one in Detroit, a double down the line. But there's only been now three extra base hits in Wyatt Langford's MLB career. And this one we thought was going to be his second triple. But, of course, he stumbled around second base. It was a scary moment at first. He just kind of tripped on the dirt. His left foot didn't get picked up quite enough on a ball that caromed off of Julio Rodriguez, giving him enough time that would have been probably a pretty easy stand-up triple with Wyatt Langford's elite speed. But he tripped and tried to go back into second base, didn't quite get back, was tagged out. It was the first Rangers hit of the day. And once everyone knew that Wyatt Langford was okay, I guarantee that in the dugout he was getting just mercilessly roasted by his teammates. Just mercilessly roasted. But 102 miles an hour off the bat, just seeing a hard hit ball. And not only just a hard hit ball, but the entire at-bat. A phenomenal at-bat, a 7-pitch at-bat that ended up with him blasting a fastball that was right down the middle, and it has been the thing that he has had quite a bit of trouble in his MLB career so far, was just choosing to swing at the right pitches, not only getting called strikes that were balls. That has not helped anything. It has not changed his approach too much. He hasn't tried to be too aggressive on pitches that are actually out of the zone, which is encouraging for a young hitter who's struggling to not try and do too much, stick with his approach and say, I still know the strike zone, even if the umpires sometimes don't. It's nice to see him sticking with that. But getting that pitch down the middle, getting hits off fastballs, it was one of the things that he struggled in getting, not only just hits, but hard contact, swinging at meatballs, having better plate discipline. It's the thing that makes Cory Seager so good. It's his selective aggression. It's what made this Rangers lineup so great last year and what I think will make it great this year. It's one of the approaches, one of the things that this hitting coaching staff does so well is teach these guys how to make good swing decisions, to be aggressive at pitches that they can hit, not be too passive, but also not expand the zone and try and do too much. It's just when you see a good pitch, take a hack at that thing. Take a big rip at that thing. If you swing and miss early in the count on a pitch that is, a good pitch to hit, that's fine. That's fine. You change your approach once you get to 2 strikes, but early on in those counts, let that thing fly and you will be doing a lot more damage than not. And that is a great thing to see from Wyatt Langford, who went 3 for 3 with a walk, a very well-worked walk. And the other 2 hits that he had were off of fastballs as well. One of them was off a 4-seamer the opposite way for a single. The next one was off a cutter, down and away, but still in the zone. So still technically a fastball, even though it was a cutter. Also the opposite way, also working that walk. I mean, just Wyatt Langford hitting balls hard. Those 2 other hits weren't hard hit balls, but they were good approaches, and they were him seeing the ball, hitting the ball where he wanted to, working that walk, and my God, if Wyatt Langford starts to get hot, and Evan Carter stays hot, who also had a triple in this one. I mean, the Rangers were just having hard contact all over the place in this one. Not just the home runs by Carter and Adolis Garcia, but Cory Seager was absolutely mashing baseballs in this one. A couple of very hard hit balls by Seager. One was 105 off the bat. One was 104.1 in the game before against the Mariners, the opener of this series. Cory Seager hit a ball 110 miles an hour. That's looking a whole lot more like the Cory Seager that we know, but he did leave this game with a hit by pitch, got hit by, I believe, a slider, a literal back ankle, knee or shin slider, not a back foot slider. But he left this game, stayed in after he got hit by the pitch, but the next inning he was replaced by Davis Wenzel. He has a shin contusion, will probably be off in this Thursday day game as you are listening to this, or have already. He has already been off. I don't think it's going to hopefully take him out for too long, which the timing is terrible. It's never good to hit Cory Seager with the pitch and possibly have him miss time, but having him start to square balls up like this, if he did have to miss time, that would be incredibly frustrating, as it seems like he is just about to start breaking out and being the monster hitter that we all know Cory Seager can be. Coming up, talk about Evan Carter turning a corner and some updates on some other injured Rangers pitchers that we haven't gotten in quite some time, right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks. As you begin, the world's best players take on a new level during basketball's postseason. PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from baseball to basketball to League of Legends, and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is so simple to play. You can make your picks on your entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals and easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes PrizePicks the #1 fantasy sports app. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, Wyatt Langford wasn't the only rookie absolutely raking in this win against the Mariners. It's actually might have been a little bit better of a game for Evan Carter, because he had a home run and a triple, as opposed to 3 singles, a double, a walk, and getting thrown out because he tripped over his own feet by Wyatt Langford. Evan Carter is providing so much value for this Rangers team. I ranked him as my #1 prospect over Wyatt Langford because of the floor on Evan Carter. I thought that Evan Carter would be, I thought he'd be much faster than Wyatt Langford. That doesn't seem to be the case, but the defensive value on Evan Carter, the base stealing value, which we haven't seen much of from him or Wyatt Langford, which honestly a little bummed about. I thought the Rangers would be a lot more aggressive on the base pass in terms of stolen bases this year. We haven't really seen that outside of Adolis Garcia. It seems like Bruce Bochy is still of the mindset, even with the expanded rules, even with all of these fast players, those rules being, making it a lot easier for guys to steal bases. I thought we'd see more of that. But even with Evan Carter having, what has been a slow start to his offensive season, he is only hitting .215. But he's got an OPS of 771 this year. He's got 4 home runs. He's still walking at an elite rate, still playing great defense, and hitting home runs at a much higher rate than I think just about any of us anticipated. That is another sign that Evan Carter is going to be a very, very good player for years to come. And if he starts hitting the ball a little bit better, striking out at a little bit lower of a rate, because he did strike out in 2 of his 4 at-bats today, the ceiling is incredibly high with Carter, as it is with Wyatt Langford, as it is with Jonah Heim, who had a quietly really, really good day at the plate. Had a couple of hits, including an RBI. Should have been 2 RBIs on the weirdest hit of the day. Was ruled a single with runners at the corners on a ball that was well below the zone, with 2 strikes, a slider that Jonah Heim just hooked into that right field corner. It was a tough play for Mitch Haniger to get the ball out of his glove. He did get the ball out of his glove, but not into his throwing hand. It just yeeted away from him. Ended up scoring Wyatt Langford from first because he got an incredible jump. And Jonah Heim on a single ends up at third base on what was ruled a 2-base error. I have loved the at-bats and the approach from Jonah Heim, a great hitting catcher, giving the Rangers so much value, and still can't believe the Rangers got him in the trade for Chris Davis and trading away Elvis Andrus. And they basically got Jonah Heim because they agreed to pay a little bit more of the contract of Elvis Andrus because the A's were cheap. They lose out on yet another all-star catcher that they traded away. Speaking of, well, I guess not technically an all-star catcher, but all-star level catchers, I want to give a shout out to Mitch Garver, despite going 0 for 4 with a strikeout in this one and a 507 OPS for him on the year. World Series hero Mitch Garver getting his ring on Tuesday's game. I didn't mention it then because honestly it just kind of slipped my mind, but it's good to see Mitch Garver back getting his ring, something that is rare seeing a Mariners player with a ring because in case you didn't know, they still haven't been to the World Series in their franchise's history. But much love to Mitch Garver. I said in the offseason that I was bummed that the Rangers didn't bring back Mitch Garver, but I also said during spring training that Wyatt Langford might already be better than Mitch Garver. And, well, so far to start the year, Garver is hitting 141 with a 507 OPS, and Langford is hitting 261 with a 658 OPS. Garver does have a home run, and Langford does not yet, but yeah, it seems like that might already be pretty accurate, saying Wyatt Langford is already better than Garver. I don't know if these trends will hold up for the year. I think both of them will have significantly better OPSs once we get to the end of the year, but just a fun little thing to note on, and as much fun as I have razzing the Mariners and Garver for playing there. Much love to Mitch Garver for all time for that World Series run that he went on, drove in the winning run in the deciding game, including 3 massive home runs for him, including that grand slam, which the "Can You Take Me Higher" call by Peasley on the radio. Oh, that's just, it's an all-timer, like right up there with Eric Nadell's call of the Rangers winning the World Series. Like just truly immaculate, and much love to Mitch Garver forever. But we got some good injury updates for Rangers pitchers. Well, a couple of good ones. One that gives me a little bit of concern. Tyler Mahle, finally heard an update about him. I don't think I've heard pretty much any updates in what seems like months, which gave me a little bit of cause for concern. Just not hearing anything made me anxious. That's maybe more about me as a person than it is about Tyler Mahle or the Rangers information distribution system. But Tyler Mahle is throwing bullpens twice a week. He is doing so with all of his pitches. He's going to start traveling with the team next week on their road trip, so that is encouraging news. He's not quite sure when he's going to face live pitching yet, but there haven't been any setbacks in his rehab. The initial timeline for his return was billed as probably July. The Rangers have neither confirmed nor denied that, so that seems like it's pretty safe to assume that's about when the Rangers are expecting him to come back still. So that is nice to just hear some updates on Tyler Mahle. We'll see when he starts approaching a rehab assignment. We're not quite there yet if he's not even facing live hitters, but hopefully that will be happening sooner as opposed to later. But just good to hear about Tyler Mahle, because it's honestly easy to forget that Mahle is on the Rangers roster because he was what we thought at the time was their biggest signing of the offseason. Turns out that might have actually been Kirby Yates or David Robertson, but time will only tell which of those end up being more impactful. But it seems like for this year, for sure, Robertson and Yates, especially if they keep pitching like they are, those are going to be the biggest impact signings the Rangers had this winter. Another big impact pitcher signing the Raiders did last winter, not this most recent one, but the one before it, Jacob DeGrom. You might have remembered him. He occasionally is good at throwing baseballs. I saw a highlight of his 15 strikeout performance, a complete game shutout where he drove in I believe the first, if not the only Mets run. Just a reminder of how amazing this guy can be when healthy, and he is working his way back to health. He is throwing on flat ground from 90 feet. Eventually, that's going to progress to 105 feet. Then that will progress from there to 120 feet. Then he will get on the mound, and we'll see where things are going from that. But it seems like he is about 3 weeks behind Tyler Mahle in the rehab process from UCL repair surgery. That is good to know because DeGrom had his surgery about 3 weeks after Mahle's. Mahle had his in May, about mid-May of last year. DeGrom had his in, I believe it was early June, maybe June 4th, if I'm remembering correctly. But it seems like things are going well for Mr. Jacob DeGrom. This is about the expected timeline we thought he would be on, and an August return still seems like what the Rangers are hoping for. There have been no setbacks there. It seems like an August return is still on the table for sure. And just hearing him not have any setbacks to this point, we are not quite a year removed from the surgery. I mean, about 10 months or so, maybe 10 and a half months at this point. But again, so much is going to be made of Jacob DeGrom's return. Getting more good news is always welcome. People forget how incredibly good he was, or just don't have any faith that he is going to come back and be that version of himself. I have no reason to doubt that once Jacob DeGrom is on the hill in a big league game, he will be exceptional, because he has been for the last 8 years. When he's on the mound, he's exceptional, and I am just hoping and praying that we can see a Jacob DeGrom, maybe a 15K complete game shutout performance like that one that was going around on Twitter. I don't think we'll see an RBI double from Jacob DeGrom in a Texas Rangers uniform, but 15 strikeout, complete game shutout, maybe we'll see it. And maybe even in a competitive game down the stretch in August. That would be very, very nice, but just seeing him on the mound in a rehab assignment and then a big league assignment, that is the goal for Jacob DeGrom. Still have a lot of hope for him and the state of this rotation, because after Dunning's not great outing on Tuesday, and the second straight game with the Rangers, starter didn't go 5 innings from John Gray, even though they were pretty good 4 2/3 innings. That wasn't super ideal. But Cody Bradford, who I thought would be returning to the Rangers rotation pretty expeditiously, we got an update from him last week. Bradford received a cortisone injection to relieve some of the inflammation that was caused by his lower back strain. He is eligible to return from the IL at around the end of April 29th, since he was placed on the 15-day IL April 14th in that before that Sunday game against the Astros. The 29th is an off day for the Rangers, a Monday after the series against the Reds, in between the series between the Reds and the Nationals. That series starts on the 30th, on Tuesday, still at home. But we have not received any new information on that. Other than that, it's kind of a wait and see situation. There is no exact timetable on when he will return, but Bruce Bochy said he is making progress. That makes me a little nervous that it's not going to be back on the 29th. It might be a little bit more time than we initially anticipated, which isn't great, especially for Cody Bradford, who was, dominating his first 3 starts. That lower back strain did not come at a great time. It ended up being the reason Jack Leiter made his Major League debut in that Thursday game against the Tigers. And I think it might be part of the reason the Rangers signed Johnny Cueto as a depth option, because right now we're still probably 2.5, 3 weeks away from, maybe just 2 to 2.5 weeks away from Scherzer returning. We're still in a wait and see mode on Cody Bradford. Obviously, it's going to be July for Mahle at the earliest and August at the earliest for DeGrom, which is about what we expected. But hey, it's progress, and it seems like Dane Dunning is going to stick in this rotation for now. John Gray, all of these guys that are in the rotation now are going to stick, but just getting those positive updates on Mahle and DeGrom. Not really encouraged by what I heard about Bradford, hoping that he can come back and be just as dominant as he was to start this season. but just getting that news about Scherzer being on a mound, seeing him throwing pitches and speak his mind, which is very Max Scherzer. Honestly, a phenomenal day in Rangers land on Wednesday, and hopefully Thursday will be yet another one. Close out this series against the Mariners, stay on top of the AL West, but even if they don't, I'm feeling pretty darn good about the state of this Texas Rangers reigning World Series club. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.